And then I get again messages like, "Hey man, why are you taking credit of something you didn't do?" And you know, she, yeah, she. It makes me look super bad and questionable, right? That so I pick you for the Olympia, then she pick you for this too, then I pick you again for this one. How that works?
What's up, desktopers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and we are back with another video. And today we're discussing Milos Sarcev appearing on the Menace Podcast with Dennis James, Chris Cormier, and Abdullah, discussing the Samson Dauda coaching situation, sort of what went down, where they're at now, and also Samson speaks on the situation as well. So let's get straight into it, and we'll be reacting to Milos Sarcev on the Menace Podcast.
If his wife was piquing him, what, Milos, I know this is a stupid question, but I have to ask because I think the fans want to know. What was your role as his coach when he mentions that his wife piqued him?
Well, listen, of course, that's a disturbing message. And I have to listen. And then I get, again, messages like, "Hey, man, why are you taking credit of something you didn't do?" And, she piqued him. And,
So obviously for Milos Sarcev, in this situation, had he come out and said Marlena was prepping Samson for the last minute for those shows, obviously Samson being a top 3 bodybuilder in the world, the Arnold Classic champion, people are going to go, well, why isn't he trusting Milos? Instantly there's going to be questions asked. Also, James Hollingshead sort of went his own way in his prep as well. It sort of ends up being a bit of a PR disaster for Milos Sarcev in this contest prep, and probably unrightly so as well, because Milos is obviously a very dedicated coach, and we sort of see what he does for his athletes in terms of being their #1 fans and supporters. You see him go to bat for these athletes regularly. So if it did come out that she was prepping him back then for those shows, or at least the last minute prep and peaking him, then it would have looked bad on Milos Sarcev, absolutely.
For me to first hear that he ended up in a hospital, and people would put 2 and 2 together and say, like, "Oh yeah, you put him in the hospital." Like, guys, no bodybuilder on that stage doesn't have some level of dehydration. It's expected for us to be dry more than normal, therefore somewhat dehydrated. There was never a case in any of the shows, 13 shows that I worked with Samson, that he was cramping, that he was feeling dehydrated and, in potential danger.
Now, Samson did sort of come out and says he did things that he sort of regrets for finals at that Arnold Classic in Columbus. By the sounds of it, it is diuretics, because the way Milos is talking, he said, he was never in any danger. I was never concerned. So obviously Milos, I think in some way is addressing that here. So Milos is sort of confirming that side of things. He obviously didn't know that Samson was in the hospital or was planning to go to hospital or anything like that. He was sort of surprised by the video that was posted up. So Samson's still working with Milos technically at that time, whether he was intending to or not in the future. It probably should have been mentioned to Milos, because Milos, naturally, his phone's going to blow up when Samson puts a video out like that.
But then when he pointed out that Marlena picked him for these 2 shows, which we were at this point a team. That's Samson's wife and a cook, and all goes through discussion between 3 of us. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. It makes me look super bad and questionable, right? That, so I pick you for the Olympia, then she pick you for this too, then I pick you again for this one. How that works? I never had a chance to discuss this with him, and but thank God this is not going to be a run before the UK. So after the UK, probably he's going to be, in a different set of mind that we could possibly talk.
Yeah.
And what was that all about?
So obviously it does make Milos look super bad, as I mentioned earlier, but it sounds like they haven't had a chance to talk. This was actually filmed on Tuesday last week, which is like Wednesday Australia time. So we're looking at about 5 to 6 days ago. So these guys may well have spoken by this point. I did reach out to Milos Sarcev as well, just to see if they had spoken or anything. I didn't hear back, but obviously, it's hard to see this when 2 guys were so close and seemed to have such a tight bond for them not to have spoken at this point while their coaching relationship has ended.
Question for you. Does it work to have 2 coaches?
No.
Chris,
Nope.
it's different if one coach is a nutritionist and everything else, and one trains you. That's different.
Well, I mean,
But to
if
have
people
two coaches, even if it's two great coaches, there will be a time where one says this we should do this, and one thinks this is not a good idea. Now, what you gonna do? You confuse the athlete?
It's definitely hard to have two coaches working on one athlete. In cases where it's worked, when you've got like Dennis James doing the training for Big Ramy for the last 5-6 weeks and Chad Nichols doing the diet, they communicate. It's a special circumstance when I can think of a few examples of this where top IFBB pros had a training coach, Sean Roden. He had Chris Psycho Lewis and he had Chris Aceto. Worked brilliantly together. He won the Mr. Olympia. So it can work in that scenario. But as a general rule, if you've got two people that have opinions and are working on the nutrition side of things, it can work well, but it often leaves things open to potentially the coaches disagreeing and wanting to do their own thing and having their own opinion, and then the athlete has to make a decision himself, which makes it sort of hard and puts the guesswork back onto the athlete, which is the reason why most athletes do have coaches. I have no idea if that's happening here or if that was a thing whatsoever. I don't think so. I think that Samson, for the most part, would have followed what Milos said, but we don't know. We don't know.
I'm not in the coaching really as a business. I became emotionally involved. We are basically a family. I mean, for 3 years, Milena and Samson are my family, you know.
Yeah.
So you talk and you live it through and everything, ups and downs. It's not like there was many downs. It was just like, okay.
You hear it in Milos's voice, but he really does consider Samson and Marlena family. And you just know they're not really going to have as close of a relationship, most likely, now that he's not his coach, because you don't have that sort of reason to constantly contact all the time. But I really hope they do. I really hope they do stay close. But it does hurt me to see, because I love Milos. I love Samson. They're both great people. I've known Samson for years now, and Samson has had a meteoric rise in this sport. He's a huge name. He has a big following now, especially compared to where he was a couple of years ago. So I think for Samson, sometimes putting out that video and things like that, I don't think it was ever meant with any malintent towards Milos, or he didn't even think that Milos's phone's going to blow up, and I haven't even told Milos about this when he put that video out about potentially going to hospital. I don't think that either crossed his mind whatsoever. He's in prep, he's depleted, all that sort of stuff. I'm not just making excuses for Samson, but I'm giving you his side and where his mind would have probably been at. And also for Milos Sarcev, I do feel for him in this situation, because he has gotten a bad rap overall, for sure. And I think Samson, it's come back on him a bit now. Now, he put this post up, and as soon as I saw it, I knew there was going to be some backlash, because he's thanking Marlena, and Marlena obviously did a fantastic job. And Milos did mention in that video as well that, you know, they sort of have the blueprint. So he prepped him for shows prior, and then Marlena did his last minute prep for a few of those shows. Whether she did the same thing or not, I have no idea, or something similar. But yeah, so Samson put this up thanking her, and I knew without thanking Milos first, it was going to get a bit of backlash. But I think Samson sort of read the room, and he posted up this thanking Milos Sarcev, and he says, now that the dust has finally settled down for the last 2 weeks on a very full-on roller coaster ride, I can take the time to say thank you to this amazing gentleman for all he has done for me for the last 2.5 years. We have been through the craziest battles and experience together, and we both have worked so hard and tireless to achieve the goal of becoming one of the best bodybuilders in the world, for which I will forever be grateful to him. Thank you, Milos Sarcev, for all that you have done for me, the time we worked together, and I wish you all the very best. Even though we are no longer working together, I will always consider you my friend. So I'm glad that Samson put that up, because one, it stopped some of the fans going as hard on him, but there still was a bit of blowback in the comments, but it was much more positive than the prior post. And I do feel bad for Mel as well, because she's sort of been dragged into this, and people that are pro Milos and positive Milos, or feel bad for Milos in this situation, sort of have gone then at Samson and Mel. So I just want to sort of say, I think this is a full stop on this situation. Maybe Samson speaks further on it. Maybe we have something else to talk about in regards to this, but I don't think it's ever going to be something negative on Milos. I really don't think that anything like that is going to come out. And I think these guys will end up being great friends. So I'm glad that Samson put the thank you up for Milos. Milos spoke out and sort of spoke his side of the truth, and I think pretty much we're going to be able to put a full stop on this. But let me know what you think in the comments below on all of this. And if you did enjoy this video, give the video a thumbs up, smash that like button, also subscribe and click the notification bell button. That way you'll be notified of every video that goes up for myself, Xavier Wills here at Desktop Bodybuilding. So for myself, Xavier Wills, this is Desktop Bodybuilding, and we are out.